Mama M's food was famous across the town. Her egusi soup and jollof rice, irresistible. But when a little boy discovered a human finger in her pot, everything changed. Secrets buried for years began to surface, and the town realized Mama M's success came at a horrifying price. What happens when the truth is uncovered? Stay tuned.
Once upon a time, in a small town called Odoakpo, there was a woman named Mama M. She was famous for her cooking. Everyone in the town loved her food, especially her famous egusi soup and jollof rice. People traveled from far away just to have a taste of her dishes. Her food was so delicious that even rich people from other towns came to eat. Mama M was kind and always smiling. She had a big heart and was always ready to help anyone in need. Every December, she would travel back to her village, promising poor parents that she would send their children to school. The parents were very happy and believed her because Mama M had a good reputation. But something strange happened every time she returned from the village. The children she promised to help never came back. Nobody ever asked too many questions. Mama M's food was so good that no one wanted to make trouble. But one day, something happened that nobody could forget. It was a busy market day, and Mama M was cooking her famous soup in her big black pot, as usual. The smell of her soup filled the air, making everyone hungry. But as the townspeople crowded around her stall, something went wrong. A little boy named Tand, who was passing by, accidentally bumped into Mama M's black pot. The pot shook, and before anyone could stop it, the lid fell off. Everyone gasped as the pot opened. Inside the pot, floating in the thick soup, was something shocking, a human finger. Tand screamed, and the whole market froze. People stared at the pot in disbelief. How could there be a human finger in the soup? Mama M's face turned pale. Her smile disappeared, and for the first time, she looked scared. The people started whispering, asking how the finger had ended up in her pot. Some even began to point fingers at her. But Mama M quickly tried to calm everyone down. She said, "Oh, it's nothing. Just a small mistake. A finger from one of the animals I was using for the soup." But nobody was convinced. The townspeople began to wonder what was really happening in Mama M's kitchen. What was she hiding? They had always trusted her, but now everything felt wrong. As the crowd grew bigger, a brave woman named Madame Clara spoke up. "Mama M," she said, "I've known you for years, but this doesn't look right. What's really going on?" Mama M tried to avoid her gaze, but Madame Clara wasn't going to let it go. "I think it's time we find out what's in that black pot you always keep hidden." The crowd murmured in agreement. Something didn't feel right. They were all eager to know the truth. But Mama M quickly grabbed the pot, trying to close it, and ran inside her little shop. The people followed her, demanding answers. What had Mama M been hiding all these years? Just then, something else strange happened. A man named Chaik, who had been quietly watching the scene, stepped forward. He was the town's blacksmith, known for his wisdom. "Let's not jump to conclusions," he said, "but there's something we need to understand." He pointed to the black pot and added, "Let's take a look inside. The truth is in there." And so, the townspeople began to push forward, determined to uncover the secret that Mama M had kept hidden for so long. What would they find inside her black pot? The crowd pressed closer to Mama M's shop, their eyes filled with curiosity and fear. Mama M was trembling, her hands shaking as she held the black pot tightly. She looked around, trying to find a way out of the situation, but the people were not going to back down. The whispers in the crowd grew louder. "Open the pot, Mama M. We need to know the truth." Madame Clara shouted, her voice strong and firm. She had always trusted Mama M, but now, something felt terribly wrong. Mama M swallowed hard and took a step back into her small, dimly lit shop. The townspeople followed her, their footsteps echoing on the dirt floor. The black pot sat on the counter, its lid still loosely hanging off. The air in the shop was thick with tension. Chaik, the wise blacksmith, stepped forward and gently said, "Mama M, you've been a part of this town for so long, but we need to see what's inside. There are too many questions now, and we can't ignore them." Mama M looked at the crowd of faces around her. She had no choice. She slowly placed the pot down and, with shaking hands, lifted the lid. The room went silent. Inside the pot, the soup was thick and bubbling, but it wasn't just the human finger that was floating in the soup anymore. As the steam rose, the people gasped in shock. There were more fingers, more pieces of something unidentifiable. Some of them looked like human hands, but the pieces weren't all the same. There were strange markings, and the soup was darker than usual, almost black in color. Mama M's face turned pale. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest. For the first time, she wasn't sure how she was going to talk her way out of this. I didn't mean for it to happen this way," Mama M stammered, her voice shaking. I thought I was doing good. I wanted to help the children. Help the children. Chike repeated, his voice filled with disbelief. You've been telling us you were sending children to school, but what's this? What is all of this in your pot, Mama M? The townspeople were starting to panic. What have you done to them? Someone shouted from the back of the room. Mama M couldn't speak. She just stood there, staring at the pot. Tears began to well up in her eyes. She had always been so good at making people trust her, but now, the truth was out. She had been hiding something terrible from the whole town. Then, from behind the crowd, a small voice spoke. It was Tund, the little boy who had accidentally bumped the pot earlier. Mama M, Tund said softly, his eyes wide with confusion. Why are there so many pieces in there? Who are they? The crowd fell quiet as all eyes turned to Mama M, waiting for an answer. The weight of the moment pressed down on her. She had no choice but to speak the truth. Slowly, she started to explain. 4 years, I've been taking children from the village to bring them here, promising their parents I would send them to school, she said, her voice trembling. But I didn't send them to school. I kept them. I kept them in the back of my kitchen, in the secret room. The children they were part of my cooking. I thought no one would ever know. The townspeople gasped. Shock and horror filled the room. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. But why? Madame Clara asked, her voice full of pain. Why would you do such a thing, Mama M? Mama M looked down, unable to meet anyone's gaze. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, she whispered. I wanted to make my food special. I wanted to create something no one could resist. But the more I cooked, the more I needed new ingredients. Chike took a step forward, his face hard with anger. You used innocent children as your ingredients. You've killed them all for your food. Mama M began to sob. I didn't want to. But I became addicted to the taste, to the power I felt from having such a special dish. I thought if I kept sending the children away, no one would notice. But now, everything is falling apart. The secret is out. The townspeople were horrified, some with their hands over their mouths, some shaking their heads in disbelief. How could Mama M, the kind woman who had fed them all, have done such terrible things? But just then, something even stranger happened. The black pot, still bubbling with the dark soup, began to shake. The lid rattled and then, the pot started to glow. The crowd stepped back, fear rising in their hearts. Was this the work of evil spirits? Was Mama M's cooking cursed? The glow from the pot grew stronger, and before anyone could react, a loud crash echoed through the room. The door of the secret room in the back of the shop flew open, and out stepped something no one could have ever expected. The door to the secret room flew open with a loud bang, sending dust flying into the air. The townspeople gasped and stumbled back in shock, eyes wide as they watched the figure that emerged from the darkness. It was a man, no, not just a man. His skin was pale, almost grey, and his eyes glowed with an eerie, unnatural light. His clothes were torn and covered in a dark, sticky substance. He moved slowly, as if he had been trapped for a long time, and his body was thin, almost skeletal, like someone who had not seen sunlight for years. Who are you? Someone in the crowd whispered, barely able to speak. The figure stepped forward, his eyes scanning the room. Mama M trembled at the sight of him, and for the first time, she looked truly terrified. It's him, she whispered, almost to herself. It's him, the one who taught me. The crowd was silent. Chike, the blacksmith, looked at Mama M, his voice low. What are you talking about, Mama M? Who is this man? Mama M looked up, her face pale with fear. He is the one who showed me how to make the soup special. He promised me that if I followed his instructions, I would make the best food in the world. He said it would bring power, wealth, and success. The man, or whatever he was now, smiled faintly, showing sharp, yellow teeth. And it did, didn't it, Mama M? His voice was deep and cold, sending chills through everyone in the room. Who are you? Madame Clara demanded, stepping forward. What have you done to this woman and these children? The man's smile grew wider. You could say I made Mama M into what she is now. She came to me, desperate for success. And I gave her the secret. But every secret comes with a price. The townspeople exchanged uneasy glances. What was happening? What had Mama M truly gotten herself into? What price? Chike asked, his voice shaking with anger. What price did you make her pay? What price? Chike asked, his voice shaking with anger. What price did you make her pay? The man turned his glowing eyes on Chike, his smile widening even more. Oh, the price is always the same. A sacrifice. For every dish, for every new recipe, something must be taken. And for Mama M, it was those children. She thought she could keep them safe, keep the secret, but she was wrong. The townspeople began to murmur, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others backing away slowly. The truth was clearer now, but it was even more terrifying than anyone could have imagined. Mama M's hands were trembling as she clutched the counter. I didn't know. I didn't understand. She whispered, tears falling from her eyes. But now, I see what I've become. What I've done. The man chuckled softly, a cruel, hollow sound. It's too late now, Mama M. The power you sought is already here. The soup is perfect. You can't undo what's been done. Suddenly, there was a loud crash, and the black pot on the counter shook violently, the soup bubbling higher and higher. The glowing light from the pot grew more intense, blinding everyone in the room. The air grew thick, and the smell of the soup became overwhelming, a mixture of something rotten and something sweet, a scent that made everyone gag. Tand, the little boy who had discovered the human finger in the soup, was the first to run toward the door. We have to leave. This is not safe, he screamed. But as he turned to run, the man reached out with a long, thin hand and grabbed Tand by the arm. His grip was like iron. No one leaves, the man said, his voice cold and final. Not until the soup is finished. The townspeople froze, fear flooding their bodies. Was this the end? Had they all been part of something much darker than they could ever have imagined? And then, just as the glowing light from the pot reached its peak, something happened, something that no one could have predicted. A loud, deafening roar echoed from the back of the shop. It wasn't a human sound, it was something wild, something monstrous. The earth beneath their feet began to shake, and the windows rattled in their frames. Mama M staggered backward, her hands covering her face in despair. No, it can't be, it was supposed to be over, it was supposed to be finished, she whispered, her voice trembling with regret. The creature's eyes locked onto the man who had appeared from the secret room. It growled and snarled, its enormous claws reaching for him. You broke the rules, the creature hissed, its voice as cold as the deepest night. You took too many lives. You thought you could control the power, but now, you've unleashed something worse than you ever imagined. The man who had been guiding Mama M, the one who had promised her power and success, looked terrified for the first time. I didn't mean for it to go this far, he stammered. Please, spare me. But the creature did not spare him. With a swift motion, it reached out and grabbed him, pulling him into the darkness of the secret room, leaving nothing but a chilling silence behind. The townspeople were left standing there, still in shock, unable to speak. Tand, the little boy who had been the first to notice the truth, slowly turned to the others. We must stop the evil, he said quietly. We must never forget the price of seeking power through darkness. And just like that, the glowing light from the black pot dimmed. The air grew still, and the smell of the soup began to fade. The curse that had haunted Mama M's food was finally lifted. The people of Odo Ekpo learned a hard lesson that day. They realized that sometimes, in the quest for success and power, people can lose sight of what's truly important: honesty, kindness, and respect for life. There's always a price to pay when one takes shortcuts to gain something without considering the consequences. And as the sun began to set, the townspeople left Mama M's shop, each carrying the weight of the truth they had uncovered. The memory of the human fingers in the soup would never leave them, but they also knew they had learned something they would carry with them forever. Moral lesson. Power and success gained through harmful means will always come with a price. True success comes from honesty, hard work, and treating others with kindness. Be careful of what you seek, and always consider the consequences of your actions.